Ever hit a moment that completely rewrote your future? One split-second choice, a single evening, a quiet conversation that dismantled everything you thought you knew about your own life. If you've ever stood at that precipice, or if you're still searching for your own turning point, this story is for you. If this journey strikes a chord, hit that like button and subscribe. We've got plenty more tales that hit right in the feels. Rain hammered the glass, blurring the world into a gray smear. My wipers were thrashing back and forth, fighting a losing war against the deluge. The GPS on the dash was useless, blinking in and out of existence as the signal died in the deep woods. Beside me, Catherine Winters let out a frustrated breath, tossing her mobile into her lap. "Dead air," she muttered. "This storm must have taken down the local towers. I can't get through to the hotel." I white-knuckled the steering wheel, eyes straining against the blacktop. We should have been pulling into Chicago by now, but the weather had other plans. Mapleton wasn't on our route. Hell, it barely looked like it was on the map. But as the sky turned pitch black, it was our only safe harbor. "Sign says there's a motel in 2 miles," I said, leaning forward as if that would help me see through the sheets of water. "We can bunker down there and make a break for it at dawn." Catherine gave a curt nod, the exhaustion finally bleeding through her iron-clad professional mask. We'd spent 3 days zigzagging across the Midwest, chasing leads. As the new guy at Horizon Marketing, I was walking on eggshells, desperate to impress a woman who was basically an industry titan. She had no idea this trip was barely holding together on my end. My childcare situation had imploded right before we left, forcing me to drive 2 hours out of my way to drop my daughter Emma at my sister's place. Being a single dad climbing the corporate ladder felt like trying to defuse a bomb while juggling flaming swords. Then I saw it. The flickering neon sign of the Pine Ridge Motel cutting through the gloom. I swung into the lot, letting out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding when I saw other vehicles. We weren't the only refugees from the storm. "Sit tight," I told Catherine, unbuckling. "I'll go secure our quarters." The lobby was a blast from the past. Wood paneling, mismatched furniture, and the scent of stale coffee. An old-timer behind the desk looked up from a newspaper, his face weathered and kind. "Hell of a night out there," he rumbled, putting down his pen. "You can say that again," I said, shaking the water from my hair. "I'm hoping you have 2 rooms available?" The man winced, giving me a sympathetic look. "Bad news, son. I'm down to my last unit. Storm chased everyone off the interstate." My stomach dropped. "Seriously? We really need 2 separate rooms?" "Wish I could help. There's a state beekeeper convention in town this weekend. They booked the place solid months ago. The weather just filled in the cracks." He pointed to the pegboard behind him. A single key dangled from a lonely hook. "Room 17, is it? It's a double, though. 2 beds. I froze, playing out the scenario in my head. Sharing a sleeping space with my direct superior wasn't exactly the career power move I had in mind. The bell above the door jingled, and Catherine stepped in, brushing rain from her blazer. "What's the verdict?" she asked, falling in step beside me. "They're almost full," I said, bracing for impact. "There's only 1 room left." Catherine didn't even blink. "1 room, okay. We're adults, aren't we?" She turned to the clerk with a tired smile. "We'll take it." The old man started paperwork while I stood there, floored by how unfazed she was. "I can crash in the car," I whispered to her. Catherine looked at me like I'd just suggested we try to fly home by flapping our arms. "Daniel, don't be dramatic. It's a room with 2 beds, not a scandal. Besides, if your snoring is anything like your spreadsheet organization, it'll be efficient and unobtrusive." The joke cut the tension. But as we splashed through the puddles toward room 17, my anxiety was replaced by a strange, buzzing energy. The room was a time capsule. Floral bedspreads that had seen better decades, a laminate table, and a television set that probably weighed more than my car. The bathroom was barely big enough to turn around in. "Palace awaits," Catherine deadpanned, dropping her bag on the bed by the window. "I'm getting out of these wet clothes." While she disappeared into the bathroom, I sat on the edge of the mattress and dialed my sister. Emma was 6 years old, and she was my entire world. Ever since Melissa passed away 3 years ago, I've been running on adrenaline and caffeine, trying to be everything for her. "She's out like a light, Danny," my sister whispered down the line. "How's the road?" "Treacherous," I murmured. "We're stuck at a roadside motel. Only one room, so I'm bunking with the boss." My sister snorted. "Ooh, scandalous workplace drama." "Stop it," I hissed, checking the bathroom door. "She's my boss, Jen, and you know I'm not looking for that. It's been 3 years. Melissa wouldn't want you living like a monk forever." I was saved from the lecture when the bathroom door opened. Catherine stepped out in yoga pants and an oversized college hoodie. Her hair was messy, her face scrubbed clean of makeup. She looked 10 years younger, softer, human, completely different from the shark I saw in the boardroom. "Bathroom is all yours," she said, curling up on her bed with her laptop. I mumbled a goodbye to my sister and grabbed my kit. In the bathroom, I threw cold water on my face, staring at the tired man in the mirror. At 34, I felt ancient. The gray hairs at my temples were multiplying, trophies from the stress of grief and single parenthood. I felt the weight of it all, the constant need to provide, to protect, to be enough. When I walked back out, the room was dark, except for the blue glow of Catherine's screen illuminating her face. "Still grinding on the Dennison file?" I asked, sitting on my bed. She didn't look up. "CMO sent over some late requests. I need to weave them in before the presentation next week." "You want a second pair of eyes?" She paused, looking over her screen at me. "Get some sleep, Daniel. You did all the driving." "I'm wired," I said, pulling my laptop from my bag. "Besides, 2 heads are better than 1. A subtle warmth softened her expression. "Okay, I'm sending the files over now." We fell into a rhythm for the next 60 minutes. Just the steady click-clack of keystrokes and the storm drumming against the glass. It felt surprisingly calm. Watching Catherine operate in this raw state was fascinating. She chewed her lip while thinking. She whispered to herself when the math got tricky. Back at headquarters, she was like a marble statue, flawless and completely unapproachable. "Hey," she said, slicing through the quiet. "Question for you." I paused, lifting my gaze. "Go ahead. How did you end up in account management? Your resume screams creative director, not sales rep." I blinked, blindsided by the inquiry. "Frankly, the paycheck. Sales commissions cover the rent, and with Emma to think about, I needed a steady ship." She gave a knowing nod. "Makes sense. You can charm a room, Daniel, but your eyes are dead until you start talking about design concepts. That's when you actually wake up." It felt like she had just X-rayed me, peeling back a layer I didn't even know I was hiding behind. "The design team hits a ceiling pretty fast," I shot back, feeling the need to justify it. "On paper, maybe," she countered. "But real talent kicks down doors." She snapped her laptop shut. "I've been there. Took the smart job instead of the right one because I thought I was being an adult." That floored me. I always assumed Catherine Winters came out of the womb with a 5-year plan. So, what happened? 3 years of absolute torture before I finally admitted I was driving comfortably down a dead-end street. She sank back into the pillows. "We don't have enough time on this earth to waste it being hollow, Daniel." A shadow passed over her words, a tiny echo of, "What if?" that made me curious about the life she didn't choose. "Easier said than done when you've got mouths to feed," I murmured. Her face relaxed completely. "Emma, that's your little girl? What's her age?" 6, I beamed, the pride swelling in my chest. First-grade terror, sharp as a tack and runs circles around me. "Let me see her." I unlocked my mobile, finding the best shot. Missing teeth, crazy hair, and eyes that were a carbon copy of her mother's. It still stung to look at them sometimes. Catherine took the device, her face glowing as she studied the screen. "Stunning. She's got your grin, though." "Usually, people say she's Melissa's clone," I said, ignoring the familiar stab in my gut. "No, you're in there," she persisted, returning the phone. "Especially the gaze. She looks fierce." "You mean hard-headed?" I chuckled. "Double dose of that gene, sadly." "Fair enough," she said, settling deeper into the mattress. The corporate wall between us just sort of evaporated. Suddenly I was spilling everything. Her fixation on the cosmos, reciting moons, wearing a spacesuit to buy milk. I told her about our grease-filled pizza nights and her plan to treat sick puppies while playing lead guitar. She sounds incredible, Catherine breathed when I finally stopped for air. You're raising her right, Daniel. I'm doing my best, I sighed. Most days I feel like I'm drowning, like I can't fill the void she was left with. Kids don't want a superhero, she said softly. They just want you there. And clearly, you show up. That struck a chord. It soothed a panic I usually kept locked in the basement of my mind. It's a juggling act, I admitted. This trip was a nightmare to prep for. The nanny bailed, and I had to haul her 2 hours to my sister's place while she cried about me leaving. You should have told me. Her tone shifted to worry. We could have moved things around. I shook my head. And look like a flake? I didn't want you thinking I couldn't hack it. Daniel, she said, cutting through the nonsense. Having a kid isn't a weakness, it's reality. HR has protocols for this exact stuff. It's not the same for guys, I vented. There's this unwritten rule that we're supposed to bury our personal lives and put the company on a pedestal. She paused, processing that. Fair point, the bias exists, but silence doesn't fix it. If you'd flagged the childcare issue, we would have fixed it. Her honesty hit me. I realized I'd been projecting a lot of coldness onto her that wasn't actually there. I hear you, I nodded. Next time, I won't play the martyr. Deal, she smiled, checking the time. We need to crash. Dawn comes early. Right on cue, the sky exploded. A flash of white-hot light, a window-rattling boom, and the electricity died, leaving us in total blackness. Well, isn't that just poetic? Catherine whispered. I clawed the mobile from my pocket and thumbed the torch to life. Stay put. I'll check if the lobby knows what's going on. Outside, the corridor was a cavern of shadows, broken only by the sickly glow of emergency floodlights. A few other travelers were poking their heads out, faces etched with the same bewildered look. Downstairs, the old man behind the counter was busy striking matches. Whole grid is down, he muttered, watching a wick catch fire. Storm knocked out the main lines. Don't expect a fix before sunrise. I gave him a nod of thanks and navigated the gloom back to our suite, where Catherine had already raided the drawers and set a few tea lights aglow. We're in the dark until morning, I said, closing the door against the hallway. The whole town is blacked out. Catherine just dipped her chin, the flickering orange glow softening the sharp angles of her features. Well, at least we're not completely blind, she murmured, waving a hand at the tiny flames and our devices. Better save the battery life, though. A heavy, unscripted silence descended on the room, punctuated only by the rain hammering the glass. Stripped of emails and deadlines, the sudden proximity felt amplified. It was just the two of us, colleagues, usually separated by mahogany tables and corporate titles, now huddled within arm's reach in the amber dark. Tell me a secret, Catherine said, her voice cutting through the quiet. Who are you when you're not Mr. Reeves from the office? I paused, letting the question hang in the humid air. I'm a guitar player, I confessed. Nothing professional, but I can carry a tune. My daughter, Emma, is the only one who appreciates my improvised lullabies. A genuine smile touched her lips. I can see that. You've got the resonance for it. I've caught you humming between meetings. It threw me off guard. The idea that she paid enough attention to catalog my unconscious habits. Fair is fair, I countered. Your turn. Let me think. She stared into the flame. I almost traded the boardroom for a kitchen. Spent a summer in Paris whisking sauces before I graduated. No kidding. I never pegged you as the culinary type. Oh, it's an obsession, she whispered. I still sneak off to workshops when the schedule clears. I gutted my apartment just to install a professional-grade range. It's the only place the noise in my head stops. So why are you selling marketing strategies instead of soufflés? The light seemed to dim as her expression tightened. My folks had a rigid definition of success. They footed the bill for the business degree and expected a return on investment. Cooking was a cute pastime, not a livelihood. And you just went along with it? I was 22 and terrified of letting them down, she said, shoulders dropping slightly. By the time I figured out it was my life, not theirs, I was already climbing the ladder. Hitting reset felt impossible. Her tone held a quiet ache that struck a chord in my chest. It made me wonder how many dreams get suffocated by the fear of stability. How many roads remain untraveled because the map says otherwise. "The book isn't finished yet," I said softly. Julia Child didn't even pick up a French cookbook until she was in her 30s. Catherine let out a breathless chuckle. "Careful, Daniel. Are you trying to talk your boss into resigning?" "I'm just saying that the universe has a funny way of keeping the door cracked open if you've got the guts to push on it." Her gaze locked onto mine, and for a heartbeat the air in the room grew thick, charged with a sudden, unspoken understanding. A violent crack of thunder shattered the spell, and she jerked her eyes away. "We need to rest," she said, the professional mask sliding back into place, though her voice wavered. We retreated to our separate beds, blowing out all but one solitary candle on the nightstand. Lying there in the semi-darkness, with the gale tearing at the world outside, it felt like we were drifting in a capsule, suspended in a reality where the employee handbook didn't exist. "Daniel?" Her whisper barely rose above the wind. "Yeah? Thanks for telling me about Emma. It means something, you letting me in like that." The sentiment landed heavy and warm in my chest. "Thanks for hearing me," I answered into the dark. "And for getting it. Sleep well, Daniel." "Good night, Catherine." As consciousness faded, it hit me. That was the first time she had dropped the formalities. No surname, just Daniel. It was a small shift, but it felt seismic. I woke to a room flooded with gray morning light and the chirping of birds celebrating the calm. The storm had washed the world clean. Catherine's bed was vacant, the sheets pulled tight, a piece of hotel stationery leaning against the lamp base. Gone to hunt for caffeine and food. Back in a flash. I used the solitude to shower and dress, my stomach twisting in knots at the thought of facing her. The blackout had peeled back the layers of the Iron Lady, revealing the woman beneath. I wasn't sure how to reconcile that intimacy with the fluorescent reality of our day jobs. The lock clicked just as I was zipping my bag. Catherine breezed in, balancing a cardboard carrier and a grease-stained paper sack. "Morning," she chirped. "Scouted a bakery a block over. Power is restored and the crews are clearing the debris." She had transformed again. Crisp clothes, hair tamed, face composed. The executive was back in the building. "Smells incredible," I said, taking the cup she extended. "Cinnamon buns," she said, cracking the bag open. "Local legend says they're the best in the state." We claimed the bistro table near the glass, picking up breakfast while the morning light poured over us. Beyond the window, the storm had left nothing but shimmering puddles and a sky swept clean of clouds. "Roads look clear," Catherine said, glancing up from her weather app. "We've got a green light all the way back to Chicago." "Music to my ears," I lied. Truth was, a part of me wasn't ready to burst this bubble and head back to the real world. She paused, her eyes reading the hesitation in mine. "Listen," she said, lowering her coffee mug. "I wasn't just paying lip service to that work-life balance conversation last night. Once we're back, I'm going to overhaul the travel expectations for the parents on our team." "You have no idea how much that would mean to us," I said, the appreciation heavy in my voice. "One thing, though," she hesitated, dropping her gaze. "Let's keep the rest of last night strictly in the vault. The policy changes go public, but the personal stuff stays here." Locked and key thrown away, I promised. I could still hear the echo of her voice from the lobby. "Only one room left. We're both adults, right?" And my own hasty reply, "I won't tell a soul." A genuine smile broke through her professional mask. "Thank you." As we packed up, my mind raced. What does Monday look like? Do we revert to Ms. Winters and her subordinate? Or did the axis of our world actually shift last night? The highway miles provided the answer. The ice didn't just break, it melted. She asked about Emma, trading stories about her own nieces. We discussed projects with a new kind of honesty, and when I finally pitched those wild concepts I'd been sitting on, she didn't just listen, she engaged. "Speaking of vision," she said as the city skyline rose in the distance, "creative strategy has a slot opening up. The director wants someone who knows how to handle clients but thinks outside the box." I whipped my head around. You think I should go for it? I think you're wasting your potential where you are, she said, choosing her words with care. Money is a lateral move to start, but the hours are steady. No more living out of a suitcase. The offer hung there, glittering. A chance to be the artist I used to be, and the dad I needed to be. I'll give it some serious thought, I said. At the drop-off, she gathered her coat, but lingered with her hand on the door latch. Daniel, she said, not Miller, not you. Regardless of the job, I know what you bring to the table, and it's worth a hell of a lot more than what fits in a job description. She gave my arm a quick, firm squeeze, then stepped onto the curb. In a blink, the marketing director armor was back in place as she strode toward the revolving doors. 3 months down the line, I was flipping rocket-shaped pancakes while Emma buzzed with excitement about the science fair. My pocket vibrated. Still on for tonight? Found a recipe I need a guinea pig for. See. Grinning, I fired off a confirmation and flipped a pancake high enough to threaten the ceiling fan. Is that Catherine? Emma asked, eyes narrowing at the phone. Since I'd moved to creative, the boundaries had softened. She'd gone from boss to mentor, and lately to the friend who brought baked goods that made my cooking taste like cardboard. Yep, dinner's on, I said. Mrs. Peterson is coming over to watch you, remember? Emma nodded with grave seriousness. Got it. Date night. I sputtered into my mug. Whoa, easy there. Just friends having dinner. My 6-year-old gave me a look that said, Please, Dad, I wasn't born yesterday. Daddy, she looks at you like Tiana looks at Prince Naveen. You know, after he stops being a frog. I laughed, caught off guard by the specific Disney reference. Oh, is that right? Uh-huh, she said, decapitating a pancake. And you look at her the exact same way. I couldn't shake her words all day. Had we crossed a line without noticing? We kept it clean at the office, but the nights were different. She'd even told me about her secret catering dream, something she'd never told anyone. That evening, watching her plate the coq au vin in her pristine kitchen, I really looked at her. The ice queen of Mapleton was gone. In her place was a woman who sang terrible karaoke with my kid and argued passionately about onion caramelization. Take a picture, it'll last longer, she teased, a smirk touching her lips. Sorry, I said, holding her gaze. Just thinking about how far we've come since the storm. She set the wine down. Good changes, I assume? The best, I said. I love the new role. Emma loves having me around. I took a breath, heart hammering against my ribs. And I met someone who makes me think starting over isn't so scary. Her breath hitched. Daniel. My kid thinks we're looking at each other like a Disney couple, I blurted out. And honestly, I think the kid might be a genius. The tension left her shoulders, replaced by a softness I'd only ever hoped to see. Emma's got eyes like a hawk. Nothing gets past her. She takes after her dad, I managed, fighting back a shy, tentative grin. Is that right? Catherine dipped her head, closing the distance between us. Tell me then, what else is on her father's radar? That getting lost sometimes means finding exactly where you belong, I murmured. And that one stormy night under a shared roof can rewrite your entire future. Catherine's hand slid across the table, her fingertips grazing my knuckles. I've been considering another deviation from the plan, she whispered. I want to see where this road takes us. I flipped my palm, interlacing our fingers securely. I'm all in. It's going to get messy, she cautioned, her eyes searching mine. Between corporate red tape and everything with Emma, I don't want to make your life harder. Life is never simple, I shot back gently. But some messes, they're worth every second of the trouble. Standing on her porch later that night, the tension thick enough to cut, my mind drifted back. It was wild. 1 room, 2 beds, and a few hours of raw honesty had completely derailed the life I thought I knew. Why don't you bring Emma by on Sunday? Catherine suggested. I can finally show her the secret to those chocolate soufflés she's obsessed with. She would lose her mind, I said. And honestly, so would I. She leaned in, pressing her lips to mine, and the world seemed to click into place. It was the start of something totally unplanned, yet completely inescapable. a story we'd been writing together without even realizing it. Flash forward 12 months. I was leaning against the prep counter of Second Chances, Catherine's new bistro. She was commanding the line, directing her staff with the same fierce precision she used to bring to boardrooms, while Emma sat nearby, watching her hero with wide eyes. It hadn't been a smooth ride. Catherine, walking away from her high-powered career, turned plenty of heads, and dodging HR until she left was a headache. Even Emma had some growing pains, learning she wasn't the only girl in my life anymore. But seeing them there, my daughter, who held my heart from day one, and the woman who stole it when I wasn't looking, I felt a kind of peace that had been missing since I lost Melissa. Catherine glanced up from the pass, catching my stare. She flashed that secret smile, and just like that, my pulse jumped. After the last table cleared and Emma was passed out in a guest room that looked more like her bedroom every day, we retreated to the balcony to watch the city breathe. "The Tribune's food critic called," she blurted out, her voice vibrating with nerves and thrill. "Table for two, next week." "They're going to be obsessed," I promised, tucking her under my arm. "Just like everyone else." She leaned into me, sighing. "It still feels surreal sometimes. Walking away from a corner office to start from scratch at 40. "I never doubted it," I said softly. "This was always you. You just needed a rainy night and a cheap motel key to unlock it." Catherine let out a breathless laugh. Talk about a pivotal moment, right? My mind replayed the domino effect of that evening. Me shifting from sales to creative work, her diving headfirst into her culinary dreams, and the three of us stitching ourselves into a family. "Only one room left. We're both adults, right?" I teased, mimicking her old boss voice. "If we only knew then." "And the single dad's famous last words," I countered. "I won't tell a soul." "And look at us now," she whispered, "proving to the world that the best chapters start when you least expect them." Watching the skyline glitter, I sent a silent thank you to the universe for that storm and that one vacancy sign. Skeptics call it coincidence. I call it the world giving two broken people a shot at repair when they finally had the courage to grab it. If this story hit home or restored your faith in second acts, smash that like button and subscribe for more. Sometimes the best destination is the one you didn't even put in your GPS. Remember that the next time life forces a detour. Thanks for riding along with Daniel and Catherine from a rainy highway to a bright new beginning.